They discovered too late that you're too smart to be fooled, and now they're choking on the lie they built for you. Now imagine this for a moment. Chosen one. A fool so convinced of their own genius that they start digging a trap for you, whistling confidently while the ground underneath their feet gives way. They're tossing dirt, bragging about how they finally cornered you, and the whole time you're standing there watching, amused, wondering how long it'll take before they realize the shovel isn't in your hands. This is the kind of cosmic comedy the universe doesn't write twice. Predators always assume the lamb is clueless, but they forget sometimes the lamb is just a lion who got tired of roaring. And here's the fact that slaps them the hardest. The universe doesn't kid around about exposing liars. People who build entire realities out of manipulation always end up victims of their own script. Their mask doesn't slip. It breaks. Their plan doesn't fail. It detonates. Their confidence isn't strength. It's caffeine for their ego, and egos crash harder than airplanes. And thank you, chosen one. Don't forget to pay this message back by simply pressing the like and subscribe to help spread this message to more souls, as it's the responsibility of all of us to spread the light. And thank you, chosen one, for being part of this mission. You are part of a force. Now let's get back to the truth that's currently melting your enemy's composure. They discovered, too late, that you're too smart to be fooled, and the universe is watching them squirm like a bug under a heat lamp. See, this whole downfall of theirs didn't start when you walked away. It started the moment they assumed you were simple. That was their original sin. They approached you like you were some soft-minded puppet, ready to dance to any tune they played. They thought your generosity meant gullibility, your kindness meant weakness, your silence meant confusion. They built a version of you in their head that only existed in their fantasies, a helpless, needy, insecure character they could bend, twist, gaslight, and feed lies until you forgot your own name. Cute idea. Truly adorable. Too bad reality disagreed. You watched them build the entire puppet show, and you didn't interrupt. You let them talk. You let them perform. You let them flex their cheap tricks like a street magician trying to impress someone who already knows where the card is hidden. Every moment they believed they were manipulating you was really them confessing who they were. And the universe took notes. They tried to flip the script by projecting their own rot onto you. They wanted you as the scapegoat, the blame holder, the emotional punching bag, the disposable character in their low-budget psychological movie. They twisted narratives, shifted blame, weaponized guilt, tried to distort your reality. They wanted you confused, reactive, emotionally deregulated, desperate for their approval. They needed you to be broken so they could feel whole. They needed you insecure so they could feel powerful. They needed you lost so they could play savior. Everything they needed required your mind to be asleep. Too bad you woke up. And not gradually, violently, like flipping on a stadium floodlight in a dark room and watching every cockroach scatter. You didn't just see through their game, you saw the architecture of it, their motives, their insecurities, their delusions, their pathetic craving for control because they can't even control themselves. And the moment you saw the truth, the trap collapsed, not on you, on them. They thought you were wrapped around their finger, but it turns out you were simply allowing them to expose themselves. You weren't fooled. You were observing. You weren't controlled. You were studying. You weren't hooked. You were holding the receipts. And once they realized that the follower they imagined was actually the strategist in the shadows, their soul cracked like cheap glass. This is why they panicked. This is why they spiraled. This is why they're running. It's not guilt. Manipulators don't feel guilt, it's fear. They're terrified of exposure, terrified that people finally see the truth. Terrified that you aren't emotionally chained to them. Terrified that you're out of reach, out of control, out of their narrative. They're used to dealing with people who break. You didn't break. You got sharper. It offends them. It wounds them. It humiliates them. You walking away wasn't just a rejection. It was an execution. Their inflated ego popped like a balloon in a bonfire. They thought they were the puppeteer. Turns out they were the entertainment. And now they're stuck watching you rise, while their own lies eat them alive from the inside. They tried to dim your spark, and instead they lit your evolution. They wanted you small. You became untouchable. They tried to overwrite your story. You rewrote the entire genre. They discovered too late that you're too smart to be fooled, and that revelation is the prison they can never escape. And chosen one, stay right here with me, because what you just heard was nothing more than the opening tease. That was the spark before the explosion. The real breakdown of how they discovered too late that you're too smart to be fooled is only beginning, and you're about to watch their entire illusion collapse piece by piece. If you're ready to walk deeper into this unraveling, drop the number 777 in the comments so the universe knows you're stepping fully into your power. And if you want to fuel the force behind this message, feel free to hit that super thanks. Your support turns this truth into a signal that reaches more souls who need it. And now, let's move forward step by step. If you're truly a chosen one, you'll feel that pull in your chest, telling you not to click away. That's your intuition, recognizing the truth in every word. Let's get into it. Number 1. The fool's first move. The first mistake your enemy made was assuming your silence meant stupidity, not strategy. That's the quote they deserve. Chosen one. A clean slap. A reminder that every second they thought they were outsmarting you was actually you watching them operate with the IQ of a broken calculator. They thought you were an easy pawn, a soft target, a quiet mind they could bend with a few cheap psychological tricks. Meanwhile, you were standing there like a chess master, letting a beginner believe they're winning because they captured a pawn they mistook for the king. They didn't just misread you, they misread the entire board. Imagine this for a moment. Someone so desperate for control that they start projecting their own rotting insecurities onto you like a malfunctioning projector, throwing distorted images everywhere. They walk into your life, acting like they're the director of your reality, clapping the slate, shouting action, while forgetting they never wrote the script. They wanted to weaken you so they could feel strong. They wanted to confuse you so they could feel intelligent. They wanted to twist your emotions so they could feel emotionally superior. But the universe has a joke. It loves to play on people like this. Every lie they throw eventually bounces back, and the ricochet hits harder than the original blow. And here's the fact that burns them the most. Manipulators are predictable. They all use the same recycled tricks, the same recycled fear tactics, the same recycled emotional traps. They think they're special villains, but in reality, they're knockoffs of every narcissist, bully, and coward who's ever walked the earth. They come with the same manual, the same operating system, the same glitch. And you, chosen one, read that manual before they even open their mouth. This is the moment many chosen ones doubt themselves. Why didn't I see it earlier? Why did I even let them close? Why did I give them time, energy, chances? And the real answer is brutal but accurate, because someone like you doesn't walk around expecting betrayal. You don't wake up hunting for hidden motives. You don't assume that people approach with daggers behind their smiles. Your mind isn't built like theirs. You never misjudged them. They misjudged you. Look at history for a second. People like Einstein, Tesla, Steve Jobs, and even Oprah were all underestimated early on. People thought they were too quiet, too strange, too soft, too naive, too emotional, or too optimistic. But here's the real pattern. The greatest minds always appear harmless to fools. Their power isn't loud. Their genius isn't broadcast. Their intuition isn't noisy. Their awareness is silent, observant, sharp. You fit that mold. People like your antagonist always assume intelligence looks loud and aggressive because their intelligence is fake, performative, and ego-driven. So when someone like you steps in, steady, calm, unreadable, they assume you're easy prey. That's their first mistake. The second, thinking their fear-based tactics would work on you forever. These kinds of people operate like malfunctioning puppeteers, jerking strings, hoping you'll dance. They poke at your insecurities. They plant doubts in your mind. They twist your words. They gaslight you with a smile. They bait you emotionally. They test how far they can push before you break. And when you don't break, when you stay calm, when you become colder instead of weaker, that's when their soul starts glitching. You ever see someone panic in slow motion? That's what happens when a manipulator realizes they picked the wrong target. At first, they double down, thinking, maybe I didn't manipulate hard enough. Then they get frustrated. Why isn't this working? Then comes the fear. They see through me. Then finally comes the rage. How dare they resist me? And beneath that rage sits the one thing they will never admit: envy. They envy your clarity, your inner stability, your self-awareness, your ability to stand there unshaken while their entire personality crumbles under its own weight. The universe loves exposing cowards through their own actions. Manipulators always reveal themselves in the end. It's physics. Pressure exposes flaws, and your presence alone applied pressure they were never built to withstand. This is where your true power shows. You didn't have to yell, argue, or debate. You didn't need to do theatrics. You simply existed, and they unraveled. Why? Because real intelligence is not proven through clever words. It's proven through emotional control, through awareness, through restraint, through watching instead of reacting, through choosing clarity over chaos, through responding instead of exploding. And that level of inner strength is something your antagonist has never possessed, not even for a second. They're emotional toddlers wearing adult costumes, hoping no one notices the seams. You want a metaphor? Picture a storm trying to intimidate a mountain. The storm rages, screams, flashes lightning, shakes the sky. But the mountain stands there, unmovable, unbothered, watching the storm burn itself out. Your antagonist was the storm. You were the mountain. And here's something that messes with their head on a psychological level. You didn't expose them immediately. You didn't panic. You didn't beg. You didn't crumble. You didn't spiral into chaos. You simply grew quieter, sharper, more observant. That silence was deadly. Fools don't fear noise. They fear awareness. They fear someone who can see through their motives like glass. And you, chosen one, saw straight through them before they even tried step 2. They believed you were naive because you didn't react. But geniuses often listen more than they speak. Warriors analyze before they strike kings, and queens watch the board before they move. Being quiet isn't weakness. It's dominance, disguised as patience. And your patience was the first sign of your power. Let's hit a question you might be asking right now. Why did they target me out of everyone? Because chosen ones attract parasites. It's not spiritual punishment, it's psychological truth. Your light activates their shadows. Your intelligence threatens their illusions. Your strength exposes their fragility. They don't choose you because you're weak. They choose you because you're powerful. Parasites always seek the strongest host. Bullies always choose the person they secretly admire. Manipulators always chase the ones who carry what they lack. You were not attacked because you were vulnerable. You were attacked because you were valuable. That's the real plot twist. And when you didn't break, when you didn't fall for their tricks, when you didn't lose yourself, that's when the game shifted entirely. Your awareness became their downfall. Your clarity became their exposure. Your intuition became their nightmare. They thought they were stepping into power, not realizing they walked straight into a mirror. The fool's first move wasn't just wrong, it was irreversible. Once they underestimated you, their fate was sealed. Kings don't bow to pawns, lions don't fear hyenas, and chosen ones don't fall for tricks designed for the ordinary. They discovered too late that you're too smart to be fooled, and nothing is more terrifying to a manipulator than someone who saw everything, remembered everything, and stayed 10 steps ahead the whole time. Their first move was their last chance, and they wasted it. Number 2. The mask slips under its own weight. A liar can only hold the mask for so long before the truth starts sweating through the cracks. That's the line that hits them right in the ego, chosen one, because nothing destroys a manipulator faster than watching their own performance collapse in real time. And the best part, you didn't even have to do anything. You didn't scream. You didn't beg. You didn't try to fix them, fight them, or explain yourself into exhaustion. You simply stopped reacting. And for someone whose entire existence relies on controlling your reactions, that silence was the beginning of their personal apocalypse. Imagine this clearly. An actor on stage delivering lines from a script they handcrafted to control you. Every lie perfectly rehearsed, every guilt trip polished, every facial expression engineered for maximum manipulation. They run their routine like they've done it 1,000 times, crying on command, shifting blame, pretending to be the victim, pretending to be the hero, pretending to care. It's all a performance. But then something terrifying happens. The audience stops clapping. The applause sign shuts off. The lights hit their face a little too honestly, and suddenly they realize they're standing there exposed, with nothing left to hide behind. You want a metaphor? It's like watching cheap makeup melt off someone's face under the heat of truth. No effort required, just time and exposure. And your presence, your awareness, was the heat they never prepared for. See, manipulators survive on patterns. They expect you to react the same way every time. Play your role. Follow their emotional cues. Bend when they push. Apologize when they blame. Chase when they withdraw. Doubt yourself when they pretend to be disappointed. Their whole identity is built on the assumption that they can predict your emotional response like a script. But the moment you break the pattern, the moment you don't respond the way they expect, their carefully constructed mask starts cracking like cheap glass. Your silence was their earthquake. Your calmness was their exposure. Your lack of emotional reaction ripped the stage curtains open and forced them into the raw daylight, where every insecurity and lie they tried to hide became visible. They thought you would crumble. Instead, you became colder, wiser, sharper, quieter, and nothing terrifies a manipulator more than someone who stops feeding the drama. They depend on your emotional energy the way a parasite depends on a host. Without your reactions, they start starving. This is when the mask really begins to slip. their smiles get forced. Their excuses start running in circles. Their lies become inconsistent. Their manipulation becomes sloppy. They start over-explaining. They start panicking. They start slipping into victim mode because guilt is their last weapon. They accuse you of things that don't even make sense. They repeat the same lines like broken audio. They punish you with silence, hoping you'll chase, but you don't. You stay still. You stay grounded. You stay aware. And that's when they realize they lost control. That's when desperation leaks out of them like poison through an open wound. You'll notice small things first. Their tone shifts, their confidence wobbles, their charm loses its shine. They fumble words they used to deliver with ease. They start saying things twice because they're afraid you didn't believe them the first time. They stare longer, waiting for reactions you no longer give. They start testing you, poking emotional buttons they used to rely on. But those buttons don't work anymore. And that scares them. They start panicking internally. Why isn't this working? Why aren't they reacting? Why are they so calm? Why aren't they falling apart? Because for the first time, chosen one, they're seeing themselves without their mask, and it horrifies them. This is the moment your intuition sharpens like a blade. Every red flag they tried to hide becomes fluorescent. Every lie stands out. Every inconsistency becomes obvious. You see the real them, small, terrified, insecure, and built entirely out of delusion. You ever watch a tower crumble in slow motion? That's what happens when someone who lives inside lies meets someone who lives inside truth. The universe loves poetic justice. The more they tried controlling the narrative, the more the narrative exposed them. They tried twisting reality, but your clarity made their twisting visible. They tried playing victim, but your strength made their weakness humiliating. They tried manipulating, but your indifference made their tactics look childish. Their applause sign is gone. Their audience has left the theater, and now they're performing for no one. This is when the people around them start noticing too. Manipulators can fake charm, but not consistency, not logic, not honesty. When your reactions changed, the entire group dynamic shifted. Others started seeing the cracks, the pattern, the behavior, the constant contradictions, the emotional outbursts, the fake humility, the exaggerated innocence, the sudden accusations, the random dramatics, the way they always play the hero or the victim, but never the villain. And the universe, as always, let them expose themselves without any help from you. Let's answer some thoughts you may be having. Why did they melt down just because I changed? Because your emotional neutrality stripped them of their superpower, influence. Why did the truth show so quickly? Because manipulators depend on illusions, and illusions die when they are no longer fed. Why did they look scared when I stopped reacting? Because for the first time, you weren't in the palm of their hand. They were in the palm of your awareness. Look at famous figures who stayed calm under manipulation. Nelson Mandela, who dismantled psychological traps by refusing to react emotionally. Princess Diana, who never mirrored the toxicity thrown at her. Even Keanu Reeves, a masterclass in responding without emotional chaos. Calmness is a weapon, awareness is power. Silence is strategy, and you displayed all three without even trying. This is the part that destroys your enemy. You didn't expose them. They exposed themselves trying to keep their mask steady. They destroyed their own reputation trying to destroy yours. Every lie they built collapsed because lies have weight, and their mask couldn't carry it anymore. Their downfall was not triggered by your rage. It was triggered by your evolution. They couldn't handle you being unaffected. They couldn't handle your clarity. They couldn't handle your growth. They couldn't handle the fact that you're too smart to be fooled, because they never expected you to wake up. They thought the mask they wore was glued on. Turns out it was just taped, and the universe ripped that tape off with the force of truth. They're exposed now. The room sees them. You see them. They see themselves. And that, chosen one, is the punishment they were never prepared to face. Their mask didn't fall because you attacked it. It fell because it couldn't survive your intelligence. This is the power of being a chosen one. You don't destroy your enemies. Their own actions do. And nothing hits harder than watching a manipulator drown in their own performance. The mask slipped, and beneath it, nothing but fear. Number 3, the moment you stop playing along. Nothing scares a manipulator more than the moment you stop dancing to the music they thought they controlled. This is the moment the whole game shifts. Chosen one. Not with drama, not with shouting, not with some explosive confrontation they can twist into victim points, but with silence, with clarity, with the quiet decision that you're done being part of their circus. You walk out of the ring, and suddenly the clown realizes the lion was never actually chained. You were just choosing not to bite. This moment hits them like a psychological earthquake. They feel the ground move before they even understand why. They sense the energy change. They feel the universe pulling you out of their reach. And your lack of reaction, your refusal to play the role they wrote for you, becomes the one thing their ego cannot survive. You don't chase, you don't plead, you don't explain yourself into exhaustion. You simply detach, and that detachment exposes their entire illusion. You might ask yourself, why does my silence hurt them more than anything else? Because manipulators don't fear losing you. They fear losing control of you. Your silence tells them they lost both. And the universe? It stands right behind you the whole time. The moment you choose yourself is the moment the universe clears the path. You start feeling more grounded, more intuitive, more aware. Signs align. Patterns make sense. The fog lifts. Everything you once doubted suddenly becomes obvious. It's not coincidence, it's direction. You were never meant to stay trapped in their games. You were meant to outgrow them. This is where your power shows. You stop feeding their chaos. You stop giving emotional oxygen to their theatrics. Without your reactions, their manipulation suffocates. Their guilt trips fall flat. Their gaslighting loses its grip. Their silent treatments stop working. Their punishments fail. Their charm looks fake. Their stories contradict. Without you participating, their entire strategy becomes nothing but awkward, desperate attempts that don't land. And deep down, they know it. They realize you saw the strings they were pulling. You saw the tricks. You saw the ego. You saw the insecurity they tried to hide. They realize you're not confused. You're aware you're not afraid. You're tired. You're not stuck. You're evolving. And that truth is more painful than any revenge you could have planned. The universe is with you now, pushing you forward, reminding you that stepping out of their chaos isn't loss, it's liberation. You weren't the caged lion, you were the silent ruler, sizing up an unworthy opponent. And once you stop playing along, the game ends, because you were the only thing holding it together. Number 4. Their plot backfires in HD. The funniest karma is when someone throws dirt at you and ends up burying themselves with it. This is the part where their entire scheme collapses in high definition, chosen one. Every lie they crafted, every twisted story, every manipulation they rehearsed in front of a mirror, thinking they were some master villain. It all ricochets back onto them with humiliating accuracy. They thought they were playing chess, but they were playing Jenga with missing pieces, and the universe just flicked the tower. You didn't even need to expose them. Their own behavior did the job. Their inconsistency leaked. Their contradictions piled up. Their fake innocence cracked. People around them started connecting dots they never intended anyone to connect. Because that's what happens when someone tries to paint you as the villain while acting like one in plain sight. You might have wondered, how do people suddenly see the truth now? Because when you stepped back, the spotlight shifted onto them. Without your reactions to distract, without your presence to absorb the tension, without your energy to stabilize their madness, their true colors started glowing like neon signs. You weren't the one looking messy anymore, they were, and everyone could finally see who was causing the chaos. Their charm stops working, their stories don't match, their bitterness shows, their defensiveness spikes, their actions expose their motives. They start slipping up in conversations. People notice the hypocrisy, the dramatics, the unnecessary hostility. The performance is glitching, and nothing is more embarrassing for them than realizing the mask they relied on is now working against them. This is where the universe steps in with surgical precision. The same lies they tried to plant around you become the reasons people distrust them. The same narratives they twisted become the proof of their manipulation. The same traps they set end up holding them. This isn't revenge, it's alignment. Truth has gravity, and eventually everything fake collapses under it. Their ego, microwaved, overheated, puffed up 1 second, deflated the next. They're trying to push the blame onto you, but everyone can see the desperation oozing out of them. They look frantic, nervous, inconsistent. You look calm, centered, protected by something bigger. This is your reminder. You didn't need to fight dirty. You didn't need to prove anything. You didn't need to expose them. You simply had to step out of the chaos, and their plot filmed its own downfall in high-definition clarity, and the universe made sure everyone saw it. Number 5. The Emperor that was always you. They thought your silence meant you had no power. They forgot kings don't shout, they rule. This is the moment the story flips. Chosen one. They finally realized the authority in the room was never theirs. It was always you. The stability, the grounding energy, the self-control, the emotional intelligence, all of it was yours from the start. You weren't quiet because you were scared. You were quiet because you were calculating. You were observing. You were studying their patterns like a scientist dissecting an insect that thinks it's a dragon. People like them mistake patience for weakness because they can't sit still for 5 seconds without needing validation. They mistake silence for insecurity because they can't tolerate the sound of their own thoughts. They mistake your calm for fear because they've never experienced real self-mastery. But you were playing long game, strategic, stoic, focused, and that terrified them. You carried the Emperor energy without flaunting it. You didn't need theatrics. You didn't need applause. You didn't need a spotlight. Real power never begs to be seen. It simply is. And while they were performing strength, you were embodying it. That's the difference. They were loud. You were solid. They were dramatic. You were composed. They were impulsive. You were unshakable. They were a costume. You were the actual throne. You might have asked yourself, why couldn't they see who I really was? Simple. People blinded by ego can't recognize real power. They only recognize noise. And since you weren't noisy, they assumed you had nothing to offer. Cute mistake. That misjudgment is exactly why they walked straight into their own downfall. They underestimated the one person they should have never underestimated. Your depth was hidden in plain sight. You kept your internal world guarded, your intentions clean, your moves measured. They thought you were predictable because they only analyzed the surface. They didn't see the intuition, the intelligence, the discernment, the cosmic backing behind you. They didn't see the universe aligning your path while they were too busy inflating their hollow ego. And now they see it. The authority in your voice, the strength in your silence, the stability in your presence, the inner empire finally visible. The truth they tried to bury, rising like a monument. You weren't the follower, you weren't the pawn, you weren't the quiet, weak link. You were the emperor the whole time, and their biggest mistake was thinking you didn't know it. Number 6. Their fantasy of control shatters. They thought you'd beg for their presence until they realized it was their ego begging for your attention the entire time. This is the moment the whole illusion collapses, chosen one. Every fantasy they built about controlling you, owning you, bending you, puppeteering your emotions, it all disintegrates the second you detach. They honestly thought their little love-bombing routine had you hooked. They thought you'd cling like a lost puppy. They thought your heart would become their playground and your mind their storage closet for insecurity. They thought you'd orbit them like they were the sun. But you didn't orbit. You observed, and then you detached. That's the part their ego couldn't compute. Your emotional detachment wasn't weakness. It wasn't numbness. It was clarity. You weren't collapsing without them. You were awakening without them. You weren't falling apart. You were piecing yourself back together, correctly this time. And when you finally pulled your energy back, their whole script malfunctioned like a cheap prop on a failing stage play. This is where the truth really stung them. They never had control. Not even for a second. Their manipulation only worked when you were trying to understand them. Once you understood, game over. Once you saw the patterns, the love bombs, the guilt trips, the fake remorse, the crocodile tears, the artificial intimacy, the accidental cruelty, everything snapped into focus, and you stepped out emotionally like someone leaving a burning building without looking back. You might have wondered, why did my detachment hit them so hard? Because people like this rely on reaction to feel powerful. Your silence terrifies them. Your neutrality exposes them. Your emotional stability reveals their emotional chaos. And when you didn't cling, they finally had to face the truth they've been running from their whole life. You were the one with emotional power. Their fantasy of being the puppeteer dissolves because the puppet they thought they created suddenly stands up, cuts the strings, and walks out like royalty. Meanwhile, they're left holding their scissors, shaking, confused why the universe didn't bend to their delusion. Romantic undertones only made it worse. Their entire ego depended on the idea that you'd stay attached, that you'd fight to keep them, that you'd chase, that you'd crumble. But chosen one, your heart is too intelligent for that. Your intuition too sharp. Your soul too protected. You don't chase illusions, you erase them. And now they're spiraling, they're panicking, they're collapsing behind the scenes, because losing control of you means losing control of their entire identity. The fantasy shattered, the spell broke, and they're forced to confront the worst truth of all. You were never the one trapped. You were the one they should have feared from the beginning. Number 7. The attempted mental prison. They built a mental prison for you and forgot you're the one who sees through walls. This part hits different, chosen one. This is where their tactics went from pathetic to downright embarrassing. They really thought they could trap your mind, gaslight you, twist your reality, scramble your intuition, confuse your instincts. They wanted you second-guessing everything so you wouldn't notice their hands all over the crime scene. Every narcissist thinks they're the architect of some genius psychological labyrinth. But this one? Their maze was made of cardboard, and you walked right through it like the walls were holograms. Their entire plan revolved around one idea. If they can control the story, they can control you. They tried rewriting your memories. They tried inserting doubt. They tried guilt-tripping you into silence. They tried spinning conversations until you questioned your own sanity. Cute. They underestimated how dangerous a calm mind really is. You weren't confused. You were collecting data. You weren't destabilized. You were analyzing the pattern. You weren't being controlled. You were silently watching the trapdoors misfire. They didn't realize your intuition is practically a lie detector with a built-in spotlight. You saw every contradiction, every slip-up, every micro-expression of guilt. You're too spiritually synced, too mentally sharp, too universe-backed for their dusty little mind games. You might have asked yourself, why did they try so hard to break me mentally? Because mental imprisonment is the only prison they have the capacity to build. They can't overpower you physically. They can't outthink you emotionally. They can't match your intuition, resilience, or intelligence. So they resort to illusions, to smoke and mirror psychology, to confusion tactics, hoping you'll tie yourself in knots. But chosen one, you don't get trapped. You don't get rewired. You don't get lost in someone else's narrative. You're the kind of soul who sees the blueprint of manipulation before the manipulator even draws it. You walked through their gaslighting like sunlight burning through fog. Every trick they used only exposed how weak they truly were. Their goal: to keep you mentally chained. The result? You became mentally untouchable. And when you didn't break, didn't panic, didn't spiral, didn't collapse, when you stayed calm and clear, it shattered them. They realized the walls they built weren't containing you. They were closing in on them. Their own lies became their cage. Their own confusion became their downfall. Their own manipulation became the evidence. And you? You walked out without a scratch, because you were never meant to be imprisoned. You were meant to expose the prison. Number 8. Narcissistic collapse. The grand meltdown. Nothing destroys a narcissist faster than the silence of the person they thought they controlled. Here it is, chosen one, the scene every villain thinks they'll never star in, the collapse, the meltdown, the implosion so loud the universe almost puts subtitles under it. This is where their entire personality disintegrates, because you finally did the one thing their ego cannot survive. You stopped reacting. Their rage wasn't about losing you, it was about losing the mirror they used to avoid facing themselves. When you stopped feeding their chaos, the screaming void inside them finally had no place to hide. Every insecurity they shoved onto you ricocheted back, every accusation boomeranged, every projection snapped back at their face like a rubber band pulled too far. And suddenly, the powerful persona they curated collapses like a wet cardboard castle. You might wonder, why does my silence hit them harder than all my arguments ever did? Because silence removes the fuel. A narcissist runs on reaction, rage, tears, confusion. Any energy from you validates their ego, but your calm, your neutrality, your refusal to play along, that forces them to sit with their own emptiness. That's their real fear. That's the abyss they've avoided since childhood. And you just dragged them straight into it without lifting a finger. This is where the meltdown gets cinematic. They throw tantrums behind closed doors. They smear your name to anyone who'll listen. They obsess over how to get you back, not out of love, but out of panic. They replay your lack of reaction like a horror movie in their mind. And here's the cosmic joke. The meltdown they have is the meltdown they wished you would have. They wanted you curled up, broken, furious, desperate. Instead, you're drinking water, minding your business, leveling up, healing, glowing. Meanwhile, they're the one pacing the floor at 3 a.m., ripping their ego apart, trying to figure out why their old tricks don't work on you anymore. This collapse isn't punishment, it's exposure. The universe simply removed your energy so their true form could finally be seen. And the best part? Not your circus, not your performer, not your problem. They created their own downfall by underestimating you. Their collapse was the consequence of confusing your compassion for weakness and your silence for surrender. You weren't breaking, you were rising. You weren't losing, you were detaching. You weren't reacting, you were reclaiming every inch of your mental and emotional freedom. And now, they're left with the one opponent they can't manipulate, distract, or outrun, their own empty, unraveling self. Number 9. You rise, they rot. Your glow-up wasn't revenge, it was evolution. Their downfall was just a side effect. This is the part that makes your enemies choke on their own bitterness, chosen one. The moment your healing stops being a quiet, internal process and starts becoming a visible transformation they can't ignore, you rise. They rot. Simple math. When you finally pulled your energy inward and let the universe rewire you, you became the version of yourself they prayed you'd never meet. The version with clarity. The version with self-worth. The version with standards. The version with confidence that doesn't waver. Your mind sharpened, your intuition heightened, your nervous system calmed, your purpose aligned. You stopped fighting for crumbs because you realized you deserve the whole table. You stopped bending to avoid conflict because you learned that peace is your natural state. You stopped dimming your light because you remembered you weren't designed to fit in. You were designed to stand out. That shift alone was enough to flip their world upside down. You might ask yourself, why are they more afraid of me healed than they ever were of me hurting? Because the healed version of you is untouchable. They can't manipulate clarity. They can't gaslight confidence. They can't control someone who no longer needs external validation. They can't guilt-trip someone aligned with their purpose. They can't intimidate someone backed by the universe itself. And here's the quiet truth they'll never admit out loud. Your healing exposes the fact that they never had real power over you. It was all borrowed power you gave them when you doubted yourself. Power they lost the moment you remembered who you are. While you're rising, leveling up mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and even financially, they're deteriorating. Their mask is slipping, their relationships are crumbling, their ego is cracking, their reputation is sinking. The universe is collecting debts they thought they'd never have to pay. That's what happens when someone tries to sabotage a soul they're not even qualified to stand next to. You rise, they rot, because healing is expansion, and rotting is punishment. Your new confidence terrifies them. Your new boundaries burn them. Your new peace disarms them. You've become the version of yourself that can't be fooled, manipulated, controlled, or dimmed. You don't just survive anymore. You dominate your destiny. And the universe? It's standing right behind you like, finally. Number 10. Real recognition and real people enter. When you stop entertaining parasites, the universe finally sends the people who know how to value gold. This is where the story shifts from darkness to definition, chosen one. The moment your energy stops leaking into black holes, life routes it toward the ones who actually deserve it. Suddenly, you start attracting people who see you. Not the projection, not the fantasy, not the illusion they tried to force on you. Real ones, solid ones. People who recognize your worth without needing a tutorial. People who don't feed off you, but feed with you. The contrast becomes embarrassing for your old enemy. Your generosity versus their greed. Your authenticity versus their manipulation. Your loyalty versus their opportunism. Your soul versus their emptiness. Once you rise into clarity, the universe starts sending you allies who move with purpose, not envy. Friends who uplift instead of drain. Mentors who open doors instead of closing them. Lovers who meet you with reciprocity instead of demand. The energy around you transforms because you transformed. And nature adjusts to match the frequency of your evolution. You might wonder, why didn't these good people appear before? Because you weren't aligned. When you were tangled in toxic dynamics, your light was smothered by noise. Narcissists act like fog machines. They cloud your vision so you can't see who actually belongs in your life. Once that fog lifts, your aura gets visible to the right people instantly. Healthy souls recognize healthy souls like magnets snapping into place. Real supporters feel your depth instead of fearing it. Real allies celebrate your growth instead of competing with it. Real partners meet your heart with presence instead of pretense. They don't flinch at your intelligence. They don't crumble under your standards. They don't panic when you set boundaries. Instead, they respect it, match it, rise with it. Meanwhile, the parasite you escaped watches it all with a kind of existential nausea. They never expected you to upgrade your circle. They never expected you to meet people who actually treat you like a human being, not a utility. They never expected you to find environments where your brilliance isn't resented, but required. Your brightness becomes impossible to dim now. Your influence grows, your connections upgrade, your world expands. This is the timeline where you finally experience what relationships are supposed to feel like. Safe, mutual, warm, elevating. And the message becomes painfully clear. You were never too much. They were simply too little. The right ones see you instantly. Number 11. Independence, abundance, and the glow-up they did not see coming. You weren't plotting revenge, you were plotting elevation. The fact that it crushes them is just a bonus. This is the chapter they prayed would never exist, chosen one. The part of your story they hoped their manipulation would prevent. They wanted you stuck, dependent, doubting yourself, shrinking, waiting for them to throw crumbs your way. They never imagined you'd break the cycle, walk out, rebuild yourself, and then thrive at a level so blinding it makes their eyeballs sweat. Your independence was the first slap. Your abundance was the second. Your glow-up? That's the knockout punch the universe personally delivered. Emotionally, you matured into someone they can't even hold a conversation with anymore. You grew past their mind games, past their chaos, past their drama. You healed the wounds they tried to weaponize. You alchemized every attack into strength. You transformed their betrayal into clarity, their rejection into direction, and their manipulation into mastery. While they spiraled, you centered. Financially, your evolution is humiliating for them. They expected you to fall apart, but you turned your focus inward and leveled up. New opportunities found you. Doors opened, skills sharpened. Maybe you started a project, changed your environment, reinvented your routine, aligned with your purpose, and suddenly abundance became your default setting, and they're watching it all while clutching the rusting scraps of their failed schemes. Spiritually or energetically, your glow is ridiculous now. You radiate peace they can't hack, confidence they can't counterfeit, alignment they can't imitate. Your frequency rose so high their energy can't even reach you anymore. They're stuck replaying old narratives while you're already chapters ahead, living a brand new plotline. You might ask, why does my success bother them so much? Because your success exposes their lie. It proves you were never the problem. You were never unstable. You were never weak. You were never incapable. Every storyline they tried to pin on you collapses the moment you flourish. Your glow-up reveals what they attempted to hide. They needed you more than you ever needed them. And now, here they are, watching from the sidelines, bitter, confused, embarrassed, realizing you were the prize the entire time. They lost the one person who could have elevated them. They sabotaged the one soul the universe actually favors. They tried to dim the light that was destined to outshine them. You're thriving, they're regretting, you're expanding. They're unraveling. Your independence wasn't just a step forward, it was your liberation. Your abundance wasn't luck, it was alignment. And your glow-up, it's the cosmic announcement that the chosen one has stepped into their true power. And there's no universe where they ever recover from that. Number 12. You become the living consequence. Your evolution became the punishment, your existence became the karma, your glow became the verdict. This is the part that breaks them on a soul level, chosen one. Not because you attacked them, not because you retaliated, not because you got even. You did something far more devastating. You evolved. You didn't just escape their manipulation, you transcended it. You didn't just survive the mess they built. You upgraded your entire identity because of it. And now, every breath you take in your new reality is a consequence they have to live with. Your self-belief skyrocketed, your confidence crystallized, your intuition sharpened like a blade. Your presence became heavier, brighter, more magnetic. You're not the same person they tried to break. You're the upgraded version, forged by the fire they lit, and the universe made sure they'd have front-row seats to the transformation. That's the punchline. Your glow-up became the karmic echo. They don't need a spiritual punishment or cosmic lightning bolt. The reminder of who you've become is already enough to haunt every insecure corner of their mind. You might ask yourself, why is my success, my healing, my transformation such a nightmare for them? Because your evolution exposes them. It reveals the truth they never wanted the world to see, that you were never weak, never naive, never powerless. You were simply compassionate, and they mistook compassion for vulnerability. They projected their fears onto you and called it truth. They underestimated your wisdom and called it luck. They tried to dim your potential and called it advice. Now, you're the living contradiction to every lie they told about you. You're the proof they were wrong. You're the evidence their narrative was fake. You're the walking reminder they mishandled the one soul that could have elevated them. And the universe, in its quietly savage way, doesn't even need to punish them directly. It lets them watch you rise. It lets them see what they lost. It lets them observe the version of you they will never have access to again. You've become a symbol of everything they feared: clarity, stability, power, intelligence, self-respect. The things they tried to steal from you are now the things you embody effortlessly. You didn't come back to prove anything. You became the proof. You didn't seek revenge. You became the justice. You didn't destroy them. Your healed energy did the job for you. And now they must live with the truth that terrifies them the most. You didn't just walk away. You transformed into the version of yourself they were never prepared to face. And now we circle back to the truth this entire story has been building toward. They tried to study you, sabotage you, trap you, define you. And all they did was accidentally awaken the version of you that can't be fooled, touched, or controlled. Your rise wasn't just a comeback, it was the whole plot twist. Chosen One, if this message hit where it needed to hit, drop 77 in the comments, hit like, subscribe, and share this with another soul who needs it. Let the universe keep spreading this fire through you.